Colin, what's your topic? But time out already on that. Nick, will you introduce? We never even introduced the second member of the team.
I don't know if he wants to be introduced.
Okay, then we won't do it.
Do you want to be
He's
introduced?
shrugging around. He doesn't care.
We have a good friend of the family here named Ryan Hunter.
A best friend.
He has generously donated his time to help us set up and get going our Starship Enterprise mixing board that he recommended for us. He reached out to us. I don't know if you guys remember, but probably not. I was on Colin and Greg Live a while back, and I was like, we need to do a mixing board. If anyone knows anything about audio, please reach out to me on Twitter or send me an email. And Ryan sent us an email saying, hey, I'm down to help out. And he was graciously kind of dealt with all of my frantic, like, but what about this? But what about this? And he's like, just buy this board. It's fine. I'll come set it up for you. So he has been here all day setting this up. If you're wondering why this sounds way better than usual, it is because neither myself nor Kevin had anything, no offense to Kevin, had anything to do with it.
Kevin had something to do with it.
Kevin is learning right now, and Kevin will be responsible for the audio going forward. Whether that is
No
a good
pressure.
or bad thing is on Kevin. He's still smiling, though.
No pressure
And that
tomorrow
smile
when Nick wants to
makes me
take
wanna
everything out of the
take
room.
a small puppy and no, I'm kidding. But anyway, Ryan, thank you so much for coming. It's been awesome having you.
Thank you, Ryan. You're a good best friend.
We're very stressed out right now, and you
I'm
have
feeling fucking great.
you have sort of kept your cool.
I did
dealing
forget
with
to
us
eat
being
lunch.
Crazy.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
now we're gonna go stir the sauce.
I just did though.
Okay.
Oh, you just did? Oh, okay.
All right. So Colin, what's your topic?
I want to talk. It's a left
Wait,
turn as I usually take.
Before we do that, do you want to give a shout out to who you work for, or do you not care?
I work for Canon Sound and Light.
So he works for Canon Sound and Light. If you're in the
Sacramento area.
Sacramento area and you need some sound or lights, go to Canon. Canan.
Do you run?
Nope.
a-
Canaan.
Two A's.
Canaan.
Ah, gotcha. They're the bomb.com.
The Chive website.
Is it?
The Chive's video website, right?
Yeah.
They got the
The
bomb.com.
fucking Chive has thebomb.com.
That's the shit.
Pretty good.
That must have
Yeah.
cost them a pretty penny.
Like-
Colin, I apologize for
No, it's
interrupting.
okay. It's quite all right. Mad season is upon us if you're into politics, and I am. Like, the primaries are heating up. People are starting to already argue with each other. Primaries are coming up. I was just basically curious if you guys plan on voting in either the primary or the general election. This is going to be a pretty huge election. This election is going to be substantial, and you guys aren't engaged in paying attention yet, but you'll find out soon enough. So I am.
I don't like when he says soon enough like that. Like it's like there's an apocalypse coming and we
It's an
don't know about it.
impending
Well,
doom.
We're gonna be like, where'd Colin go? And
the
he's
amount,
in fucking
the amount of
Reykjavik.
people involved in it and the amount of money being raised is going to make sure that this is in your face. And there's no incumbent running, and these are the best elections. These are the fucking best
Oh
elections.
yeah, this is when it really counts.
What's
Yeah.
an incumbent?
An incumbent is someone who's already in office.
Already in office.
So like in 2012, it was Obama who was the incumbent versus Romney. So he has, just like Bill Clinton or whoever, like or Bush. You have a huge advantage
Yeah.
when you're the incumbent. A huge advantage.
It's very difficult to say, hey, you don't know what it's like to be president.
Yeah.
When you've been president for 4
It's like hard to
years.
get fired.
Like, isn't there some ratio where the incumbent generally wins?
Yeah, the incumbent generally does win. So and that's just not always. I mean, the incumbent gets knocked out. Jimmy Carter got knocked out, for instance, and Bush got knocked out. But that was the last. So if you think about let me think about this. Since World War II ended, you had Truman run twice. Well, actually, technically ran once, but he didn't run again. Eisenhower ran twice and won both times. Kennedy ran once. Johnson ran once. So the only people that really lost were Carter and Bush won.
Gotcha.
So yes. The answer is yes.
For the record, Al Gore doesn't count as an incumbent, right? Because he was vice
was
president.
No, he's not. He's not.
president. Just making sure.
No. I wouldn't count that as incumbent. No. Not technically. He has an advantage too, though. He did have an advantage. He probably still won that election. Actually.
He invented the internet.
He did invent the internet.
And
Yes,
the
he did.
electric car.
Definitely about that. So I was just
And
curious if you
sports.
guys were going to get involved at all in the polity of the day, in the primary, or going to vote next year in the general, regardless of what the outcome is. You have to assume it's going to be Clinton, probably, but maybe not.
I mean, I want to. I have to. My wife is very political. She's the one person that's like, every day she comes home, she's like, oh man, and she'll start talking about some news story. And I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. She's like, well,
You
like,
see this
for
fast
instance-
trailer?
No, the other day she's like, hey, she's like, did you hear about? She brought it up like it was casual. I was like, wait, there was an earthquake? Like, I don't follow that kind of
Not a
news.
political one.
Well, she just somehow knows everything before. Like, I come home and I'm trying to make it a point now to watch MSNBC or CNN at night. I'll turn it on if I'm eating and I'm like, I gotta just have some sort of concept of what's happening in the world, or at least the United States right now. My wife is really into that, and she's really energized by that, and so she's the one that kind of puts the ballot in front of me. Is like, let's sit down, let's look through these, like all the candidates, and let's figure out all the propositions, all that stuff. Then I just go like this: just fill it out, and I will copy you. So I'm saying the same thing to you. When you go and vote for the primaries, I'll just go with you and we'll just cheat that little. You know how they have whatever the divider is. Sometimes it's a curtain. Sometimes it's a weird phone booth. Like sometimes it's the weird urinal stall that's just a little too high, so you
Right.
can't see your friend, but you can still see his penis. In pants.
Okay.
His penis.
I
in his
wasn't judging
pants.
either way.
You zoned out for a second, like you were thinking
I
about.
was thinking about penises.
That's great. I'd like to, but I think it'll be fun because it'll be fun for me to hear through your perspective, sort of what the polarizing issues are.
Do your wife's political beliefs line up with Colin's political beliefs? And will there be
General-
problems at home when you're like, well, I already voted. I voted the way Colin wanted.
No,
I
generally,
negated your ballot.
The thing about Colin is this: Colin likes to indulge in the mythos of having extreme views, but he's actually a very fair and balanced person when it comes to politics. Like he is a fiscal conservative, but generally pretty liberal
Social
everywhere
liberal.
else. That is exactly what my wife is, and that's pretty much what I am too. Like you can't live and run a business in San Francisco and not kind of have an understanding of like, okay, I'm going to lean a little bit more to the right when it comes to my money, and way to the left when it comes to everything else. And I think that's just kind of, especially because we're sort of a product of this environment now, we're all kind of friends, and San Francisco's known for that. I think we're all pretty on the same page.
Yeah.
I don't think she would lean as far right as Colin leans as far as being a constitutionalist. I don't know that she would go that far into it. But it's going to be, I mean, I don't see Rand Paul winning, so I don't think we have, you're pretty hardcore libertarian, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just vote Republican because that's
Because that's
more
kind of
pragmatic.
the one that's going to win, yeah. So that's the problem is, no matter what your beliefs are, you really have two choices. You can either vote whoever the Democratic nominee is or the Republican nominee. That's it. There's no real third party. Correct me if I'm wrong.
No, there is no real third party. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, we'll just look what happened I mean, I understand people want more choice and choice is good and all that kind of stuff, but third parties don't necessarily solve problems too. Look what happened in Britain with the parliamentary election last week, I guess it was now at this point. Not maybe when people are listening to this though. I mean, like there's 5 or 6 different parties represented. Everyone's splitting the votes. The Liberals are splitting their votes between all of these different groups, and so the Tories end up winning and a majority of the parliament. And so that's destructive in its own right. People people ask for more choice, and that's fine. And I accept that. That's great. But a third or a fourth or a fifth party is just going to make things more convoluted, I think. Yeah, no, I'm engaged. I'm excited. We can't vote at the primary together unless you're a Republican.
See, that's my thing. I won't vote in the primaries because I'm registered independent.
Yeah, you
Like,
can't
so
vote.
I'm not gonna switch it just to go vote for somebody.
Yeah,
on one of the
you
parties.
can't vote in the primary then.
I'll let all you chuckleheads pick a candidate.
I gotta
and then I'll
look.
say they
I
all suck,
registered-
and I'll write in Panda Bear.
I think I registered Republican when I was in Orange County because it's the only Republican county in all of California. I don't know. I gotta check and see what I'm registered as. I'm not actually gonna go with you. There's a fire station like 2 blocks away from my house that I go vote.
You can't just go vote anywhere you want.
I know they give you where you gotta.
Yeah,
go.
I vote out of a garage. It's really weird.
It is weird. It's
Yeah.
kind of cool though.
Yeah, something.
It's very.
I like that. It's old school.
Yeah,
like
it's very civic.
neighborhoody. Yeah. This is a question that a lot of people probably will ask, myself included, and I think it's interesting to answer. Does it matter? This is what you often hear is like, does it matter if the individual votes? Because we have the electoral system, right? The electoral college. Does it really matter if I go and vote in the primaries or even in the main election, in the general election?
Well, the primary definitely matters.
Yeah, in 2006, P. Diddy came out and he said, vote or die. And then if you don't want to die, Nick, you should vote.
Which
The
is
electoral
a riff,
system,
of course, on Join or Die.
yeah. The electoral system does confuse me though, and I think it confuses a lot of people.
There's a conversation with Colin about this. You can
There
watch on
is. We should watch
YouTube.com.
that.
Yeah,
I won't go into it too much now.
Yeah, I mean, there's not. The electoral college thing bothers me in the sense that I like the electoral college, I'm not saying that people that don't like the electoral college uniformly don't understand it. I will say with some certainty that most people that don't like the electoral college don't understand why it exists and probably don't even understand how it works. So like that's the one thing that really bothers me. It protects the small states and the people in small states, and that makes sense to me because California, Texas, New York, Illinois, Florida would dominate every election
If the majority of the population.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like so, like what about the 500,000 people in Wyoming? Their votes are relevant. So like they get just a little kick up. They have 3 electoral votes, which are still small, but by person it still counts a little bit more. So at least they have a voice.
Sure.
And in California, your vote counts a little less.
So, but is that just to even out? I mean, why? Let's go like top level here. Why doesn't it just a vote is a vote? Why
That's
can't it just be
democracy.
that?
We're not a democracy.
We're
We're
a
a
republic.
republic.
Got it. So in that regard, we have to have representatives voting for us.
Right, which is the way the Romans did it somewhat. But like like a direct democracy would be we'd vote generally, which is what we do on a state level. Like so we have like direct election of governors or direct elective officials who then represent you in the federal government,
Right.
who then cast their votes on your behalf. Because it's just less messy that way. I have no problem with that. We're not a direct democracy. The direct democracies really don't exist.
You think it would just be too chaotic because we have to vote on everything, and it would be just like constant craziness?
Maybe in a smaller country that would be reasonable, but not in a country of 320 million people. Like, that would be chaotic.
Yeah.
And you don't necessarily want that either. And we can leave that to a discussion of another time. But the Electoral College, if we got rid of the Electoral College, we'd have to amend the Constitution. That's not going to happen. The small states would never go for that. So like the Electoral College is there to stay forever.
Right.
Like, it's not going anywhere. We would have to. I do believe that in our lifetime we can have a new constitution, but that would, like, a new constitutional convention, a new constitution, which would be like an incredible experience. It would probably be a little scary. They do go over that actually in Jericho, where they write a new constitution.
Really?
But yeah, like, because some people might be like, well, we should have a constitutional convention to talk about. You know, what are we doing with this document? I don't believe that should happen, but
I don't think it should happen either. I think it'd be a pain. I think it's terrifying.
You don't want to do it just because it'd be complicated. It
would be the same. It's the same thing that every political agenda is pushed by someone, right? And that's the scary thing about what's going on and what's always gone on in the States is that, you know, you start having these politicians who are backed by lobbyists go out there and start, you know, putting policies out there that are really just to put money in people's pockets a lot of the time. So the Constitution is one of those things you really shouldn't screw with, because that's probably the only pure thing we have. Everything else is sort of tainted by the circumstances of our era and our time.
Yeah, I agree.
And that's unfortunate. Going back and fundamentally changing that, well, then we're never going to get something like, the electric car. We're not going to get that, because people that have the most amount of money that's thrown around in the United States, and Colin, again, correct me if I'm wrong, because I might be just wildly speculating here, I would guess, is big oil and probably tobacco.
And big pharma.
So pharmaceutical companies, tobacco companies, and alcohol companies, oil companies run our frickin' country. So you're going to go out there, you're going to say, well, the one thing that we're not allowed to touch, then they can now touch with their trillions of dollars, their annual revenue that they have. No, thanks. No, please keep that by itself, because that's something has to remain untouchable. Otherwise, we're kind of screwed.
You'd have people like the Corn Refiners Association stand up for the little guy. They'd be out there working it for us.
They would definitely stand up for
What do you think, Tim? Are you going to vote in 2016?
Yeah, definitely.
In the primary, you're going to vote.
I honestly, I'm going to talk to Colin about a lot of things.
Okay.
Get educated.
Okay.
Talk to Nick, because I respect Nick, and he has a good.
Are you a
opinion on
registered
stuff.
Republican, Democrat, Independent?
Independent?
Okay.
So there would be no
How
primary.
that
for you then
independent?
anyway.
Yeah. We just go in there and write Perot every time. Win.
I wish. The primary system itself is really funny too. Like, in the United States, it's just very different than it is in a lot of other places. Like, the order the states vote and stuff like that. Like, Iowa, New Hampshire, Florida, South Carolina always go in that order. So like Iowa, so all the evangelicals go to Iowa.
Why is Iowa the most? Everyone's always in Iowa. Like, everyone's in Iowa right now.
The caucus
fundraising.
happens.
Corn.
Why is it so important though?
Because Iowa goes first. So if you win in Iowa, that just gives you great
Strong
momentum.
statement.
Yeah. Okay.
But the funny thing is that those 4 states are so different, the first 4 states that go, and then states kind of trickle off until Super Tuesday, which Super Tuesday is when like a lot of states go, like 20 of them.
Because California doesn't really
I'm
matter,
into
right?
this.
California is part of Super Tuesday.
Okay.
Dope. So
We should make a Super Tuesday T-shirt and wear it on that Tuesday. Let's only sell it
it's
on that
pretty
one day.
much decided by then what's going to happen. Though,
Right.
At least like Romney was definitely going to win or whatever. I mean, Clinton and Obama was decided on Super Tuesday, but in 2008. But Iowa's important, and people dump money into Iowa and New Hampshire. Those are the 2 states really, because those you have to win one of those states. If like you don't win one of those states and you get all the way through Florida, and then when you're done, and that's like when people start dropping out, because if you can win in Iowa or New Hampshire, then you're going to start convincing donors to give you more money and big powerful businesses to get behind you, whatever. If you have to go all the way to South Carolina or Florida to win, which is something like Jeb Bush is probably going to have to do, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. The problem is that New Hampshire is super libertarian and Iowa is super evangelical. So the people that win those 2 states are typically not the right person for the party.
Right.
For instance, Rick Santorum won Iowa in 2012, who had no prayer of being the nominee at all. No prayer. But he won Iowa anyway, and it was a statement. And who won in 2008? Mike Huckabee, who was like another guy who had no prayer of when. So but it's just important. New Hampshire really is a more grounded place. New Hampshire is paleoconservative, a more Rockefeller conservative kind of state. So if you win New Hampshire, you have a lot of credential, and then you go to South Carolina, Florida. And then right into the other states in Super Tuesday. But so I like that system. It's weird. It's weird when there was a time when South Carolina was trying to go first, and there's like all of this procedural traditional order, and they're like, no, you can't.
It's like E3 press conference.
Yeah, like you can't. Sony can't go before Microsoft, and New Hampshire can't go before Iowa. Iowa also caucuses. It's not technically a primary. But so that's just a brief aside for the nerds out there.
Do you see a set of circumstances in the future where you would vote for Jeb Bush?
No, definitely
Do
not.
you think he has is he going to be a strong candidate?
Is he a contender?
No, definitely not.
Is
A
Romney
third of the
back in it?
Bushes?
Romney, I think, is going to come back.
He's going to come back.
I
He's setting it
like
up.
they apparently had. So he was going.
Who's announced already? Hillary? Did Hillary announce yet?
Hillary announced and Bernie Sanders announced on the left. I think that's it.
Okay, and on the
And
right,
maybe
it's
O'Malley at this
Christie?
point.
No.
No, Christie
Oh,
hasn't.
Officer O'Malley coming in with a shillelagh. Oh.
No, Rand Paul's declared. Marco Rubio's declared.
Rubio, that's who I'm thinking of.
Ted Cruz is declared. Who's
Cruz, yeah.
a nut job. And I think that's basically
Is Ted
everyone.
Cruz
That's
the evangelical? No, he's not evangelical.
he's like the
super-
Texan senator who's like he's evangelical, but he's just a little too much. And by a little, I mean a lot too much. There's
Which
gonna be
one-
other people in there. Chris Christie will declare eventually.
Who was the one with the bridges?
with the bridges?
The guy in the bridge controversy.
Chris
where-
Christie.
Oh, Chris
Chris
Christie,
that's
who's
right.
my dude.
He's your
My
guy?
dude.
Even though
Yeah,
he likes
Colin
to shut down
hates
bridges on
bridges
people?
because he hates
He didn't.
trolls.
He didn't do that.
Colin doesn't drive, so he doesn't care about bridges.
Yeah, no.
He doesn't go
And he
over
didn't do
bridges.
that. His staff did though. And you have to have control over your staff. I mean, there's definitely
That's
something
true,
to be said
but I
about
mean,
that.
yeah.
I like Chris Christie because he just does his thing and he just says what he means. I kept saying early on that before the Bridgegate happened that Hillary Clinton and Chris Christie would be a fucking incredible season for the summer and the fall. Like those debates would be insane.
They would
Those
be
debates would be
good.
fucking insane. But and like because Romney destroyed Obama in the first debate, but then Obama kind of schooled up and it was a very boring, very
I love that if you just replaced those names with wrestler names, everything.
No, you
just
don't
said
understand.
would have
Like
been just as
I,
relevant.
when Obama ran, I legitimately got into it, and I watched every debate, and it became almost to people who are really into politics. It's like a sport. It's like the Super Bowl because it only happens every 4 years, and so it's one of those things like
Just like
not
the
the Super
Just
Bowl,
like
sorry,
the Super
like the
Bowl.
Olympics, right? But it is a big epic event.
Yeah.
That like every 4 years happens, and if you're in any way, shape, or form interested in it, it is
Yeah, it's fascinating in general.
It's so fascinating.
Yeah,
Like
the debates are awesome.
it's just hard because from looking from an outsider's perspective, who's someone who's not maybe politically energized or charged, is the same for me with like football, right? Where I'm like, sure, I'll watch the Super Bowl, but like I ain't watching the regular season. I don't know who these teams are. I really don't know the quarterbacks. Baseball, forget about it. I don't even know who's playing for the Giants other than Hunter Pence because we know him, right? But yeah, it's one of those things where like it is like a sport. It's unlike a sport, except in the fact that it actually has real consequences if we could put the wrong person in office, i.e., we might go to war, or our states and our entire country might face bankruptcy. But so it's fascinating. It's like basically the Super Bowl if it were the Super Bowl and Hunger Games together. That's how I view political elections. It's live or die,
Okay,
do or die,
sure.
Super Tuesdays.
join or die,
Join or die.
vote or die.
Super
Vote or
Tuesdays.
die.
P Diddy.
What
Puff
do you
Daddy.
think, Greg? Are
Yeah.
you energized?
No, not for the primaries. Like I said, I'm not going to vote in them. I'm interested to see what happens and see how it all
Who's
nets
gonna
out.
win the primaries?
Hillary for sure, and then Republican. I don't know. It's tough.
Yeah, I'm still not convinced Hillary Clinton's gonna win.
Who's gonna usurp?
I think if Elizabeth Warren gets in, she's gonna win the primary. I really think that if
So
the
hard,
right
though.
if the right people get involved, and this is why I keep telling people because I know they're tired of this shit and stuff like that. But you know what? Like, how do I put this eloquently? We've had the wrong person in office for 16 years, maybe more, and like it's because people get fed a bill of sale that is media driven and biased and all these kinds of things. The fact of the matter is Bush probably shouldn't have won in 2004, but they swift boated Kerry and they ruined him, right? They totally ruined John Kerry.
Mhm.
And people that don't know swift boating, you should look it up. Like that was a very serious line of attack on a man who served in Vietnam.
He was
like
a
where he
footboat captain,
burned his
right?
medals and like he was like all these like renounced like the war like there's
It's
like
crazy that there's great footage of him in that the Vietnam documentary I watched on Netflix where it's actually him in front of like I don't know if it's Congress or some hearing and he's in his fatigues and he's talking about how horrible the war is and how we should not be there and it's like holy shit that's that guy like 30 years later would run for president.
Yeah,
It's-
and like
it's
that's it.
nuts.
That was I mean there's a lot to the story, but the fact is like and the same thing with Bush and Gore. I mean like I wanted Bush to win that election when I was in high school, whatever, and that happened. But like the election was kind of stolen, and like I don't know like how anyone can possibly think that there wasn't some shady ass shit going on in Florida and Ohio. Florida in 2000 and Ohio in 2004. But and then you got Obama, who was basically like anointed by the media, and Clinton was probably, and I would say certainly the better candidate for like someone who had experience, and she was ruined because you know, she was the anointed one, which is what's happening to her again, which is why it's so dangerous. And then in 2012, Mitt Romney was made to look like an idiot because the media like just kept talking all this shit about him, and that's why he destroyed Obama in the first fucking debate because no one knew who the hell he was.
Yeah, the
You
only
know,
thing
and that was like
the only thing you knew about him was he was like Mormon, right?
Yeah, he's a Mormon
which they
businessman.
blew it out of proportion that he was Mormon. Like,
yeah, he's a Mormon. Oh, be scared of the Mormon. Be scared of the
Right.
religious guy, and
guy's
also
gonna come take all
be
your
scared
money.
of the guy with the business. And he runs Bain Capital, and they lay people off, and all this kinds of thing.
Yeah.
And then he goes in, and he's like, "This is the first time anyone sees him," and he destroys Obama.
Yeah.
You know, and the media
also
quick, and the media
insanely good looking Mitt Romney.
Yeah, he is. But that was the
He
first
looks
time anyone...
he looks like a president you draw into a Batman comic book.
Oh no, he looks like the president, and that's like the kind of the. I'm not saying he ran a bad campaign and all those kinds of things, but I'm saying like the media spins and has complete control over things.
Yeah.
And what I want to happen for fucking once is for people to get together and be like, no, it's not going to be Hillary Clinton and it's not going to be Jeb Bush. We don't have royal families in the United States. We're gonna get Elizabeth Warren on the Democrats and we're gonna get Rand Paul on the one, and then we're gonna have a socialist and a libertarian. A run for president, and one of them is going to win.
Yeah,
you know
it's
what I mean?
not gonna happen,
but that requires it. See, that's the
not
thing
gonna
that bothers me.
happen.
It can. It just
But even
requires
if it
people to
does-
pay attention.
But then even if it does, like,
I hate
and
these
that's the thing, like
excuses.
Obama. There's just so much money behind these people. So much money. I forget what the last fundraising tabulation was for Clinton, but isn't she like trying to raise like $3 or $4 billion or something like that for
They're
a
going to raise an
campaign?
incredible amount of
It's
money. It's a
insane.
huge slush fund they have, the
And-
Clinton Foundation.
The problem with that is once they can say whatever the hell they want until they're president, and it comes time for all those checks that you just cashed, you got to repay those somehow, right? And this is what they say about Obama is that Obama had all these great ideas before he went to office and couldn't execute on any of those because everyone that backed him was like, hey, dude, you know, you're backed by big oil, so you can't end wars where we're going to protect big oil in the Middle East because we paid you, man. We bought this thing for you, and you have to repay us now. You're in office because of us. You got to repay us. So, I don't know. It would be fascinating if someone, you know, that's why you always bring up Ross Perot. Like,
Yeah,
that would have been fascinating.
Like
A guy beholden to no one who can set his own policies and push those through.
That was why the 1992 election is so fun and so funny to read about and interesting and fascinating. One of the most fascinating elections ever. A man who's independently wealthy, he's a billionaire. He spent all of his own money and he almost won. And yeah, money drove that, but it had to because the Republicans and the Democrats both wanted to squash him, and it was way worse. It's way worse now than it was then. So for someone like him to come through, he was able to buy TV time and do all these kinds of things. Probably didn't choose the best running mate in Stockdale.
Who was his running mate?
Admiral Stockdale. There's famous. Well, I'll bring these. There's awesome clips.
I
of
don't
those.
even know why I'm here.
Yeah, like there was awesome clips. I was like, oh man, what are you doing? But even when I was like a kid watching this, I was like 8 years old, and I was like, oh Jesus.
Do you remember Ross Perot when you were?
Good Lord, no.
You were like what, 3? When were you born? 89.
89, yeah.
Yeah, so you're 3 years old. You don't remember him. He was crazy, but awesome.
No, he was awesome. He'd have like charts and graphs. Like he was a businessman. He was
All
just
right,
like,
American people. Here's what I want to show you right now.
Yeah.
You have these charts that you lay
really?
out
Yeah, and
and
in the summer, so in the summer '92, it was Bush, Clinton, and him, and he was splitting the vote with both parties, and he was winning. He was fucking winning. Like, and he dropped out of the race for some reason. And then he decided to come back in, and it was too late.
Lost
but he
all the
still won
momentum.
20% of the vote. Can you imagine a third party
That
getting
would've been
20%?
That'd been
That was
crazy.
why Clinton was elected and not Bush, because he was taking more conservative votes, obviously. So money is a big player in politics. There's no doubt.
It's the biggest player.
But that's an excuse also, because that's the way you get to lazy people, through commercials and through radio spots and all these kinds of things. If you engage and work your way through the bullshit and see the candidates, then the money doesn't matter. Money hasn't bought me shit. I actually donate to Ron Paul. I donate to Mitt Romney. So like I understand that they need money, but if you can cut through the bullshit, then you get to different. You come to different conclusions.
Sure.
Elizabeth Warren is an incredibly powerful speaker, and I don't think she wants to run because frankly I think she's afraid of not going head to head with Clinton, but of damaging Clinton because Clinton can win, and I think
Yeah.
she's pragmatic.
That's the problem. Is the Clintons are? I mean, you say we don't have royal families here, but they are a royal family. Everyone loves Bill, you know, and you think about the layman. You think about the person that's out there that maybe doesn't really want to read up on the issues. And I'm using you as an example here, Tim, because I know you're probably not going to, read Politico. Do you know Elizabeth Warren? Have you heard of Hillary Clinton? That's the problem right there, right? Is that she's the loudest. She is the one who's been running for the presidency for the last 16 years,
Yeah.
right? Like ever since Bill was a senator. Yes.
Bill was
No,
a governor.
Governor.
Well,
excuse me.
congressman and governor. Yeah.
she's been aiming for this. She's an incredibly smart person. She's an incredibly rich person, and they have been building their way toward this for forever now. So it's like,
there's no doubt
it's
that
almost clandestine. Almost someone would see it.
there's no doubt that during the impeachment hearings and all that, she was like, listen, like we're ostensibly not married anymore. It's the same thing that happened with FDR and Eleanor Roosevelt. Like, we're ostensibly not married anymore. I'm staying with you because I can ruin you. When you're out, I'm running for senator in New York. You are going to get me through that, and then I'm going to become president, and you are going to stand by me, and we're going to make this happen. If you don't do that, I'm going to ruin you.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that those conversations happen.
Guarantee it.
So
that's what happens. That's
they
by
are
the way,
completely not in love. They do not care about
that's
each
the
other.
conversation
It's
that
obvious.
happens after like year 2 of marriage too. My wife, so you sit down with your wife, and she's like, "I'll fucking ruin you." No, I'm just joking. Just joking. It's
I'm
very-
sure, like,
very
I
crazy
can't to be a
relationship
fly
thing.
on the wall of the White House in 1999 or 2000, man. Like,
Oh,
I
I mean,
it was unbelievable. Like, he almost got impeached and all that stuff. It's very historic.
well, yeah, there was, but it wasn't because of the sexual stuff. It was because of
he lied.
Whitewater, right?
Well,
No.
he just lied about it. He lied under oath
Yeah.
about Monica Lewinsky. So it wasn't even the act of him having
No,
sex.
but there was that, but
it
when-
depends on what your definition of
Whitewater
is,
was earlier.
Whitewater was bad though, wasn't
Whitewater
it?
was really bad, but they got that was a real estate boondoggle, but they got away with that, and that goes way back to like their time in Arkansas. But this was specifically over the hearings over Lewinsky, in which he lied, and that I did not have
I
sex
did
with
not
that
have
woman.
sex with that
Yeah.
woman.
He was
What
under
I
oath.
yeah.
Miss Lewinsky.
But they didn't obviously impeach him. Ken Starr, all these like fucking random ass people that were
Awesome
doing
name for a senator and a porn star.
Ken Starr was the special prosecutor. Remember, he was
The
like
Starr
he
Report.
like wanted Clinton. He like wanted to kill Clinton. That's also how Drudge Report came to prominence, because Drudge Report broke the story of Monica Lewinsky. Time passed on it, which is the famous thing. I have no idea why. I wonder why he passed on it. Maybe you want to protect him, and that's what I'm talking about with biased media. Nonetheless, if you get through all the bullshit, you get to someone like Elizabeth Warren, and people. She's fascinating. She's a populist. You don't have many of those anymore. Where she's like, the game is rigged. That's like her whole thing. Like, the game is rigged. It is rigged against you. You will never win. In this system. The banks don't care about you. Big business doesn't care about you. The government doesn't care about you. If she could just say that and people listen, she would win her primary. Rand Paul's on the other side saying, listen, the government's too big. They steal all your money. They're all up in your business. Who cares what the government thinks about this, that, and the other thing? We don't want the government in our lives at all. If people paid attention to him, he'd win. And what would that fucking election look like? That's a real choice. You know what I mean? And that's what I want. I want that election so bad.
Yeah.
And all it requires, even if Elizabeth Warren won, I would accept it. And I think she probably would. Because listen to her speak. She's I think more eloquent than Obama even. And she has more resonant things to say, and she's not frankly a liar like Obama has proven himself to be, because like you were saying, he's beholden to all these special interests, which she is not. You know what I mean? So that's all that requires. That doesn't require money. That requires you to pay attention. And frankly, if she just ran and was on a primary stage with Hillary Clinton, that's all the exposure she needs, man.
Maybe she
She
will.
would go all.
Maybe she
Elizabeth
will.
Warren would go fucking ham on Hillary Clinton, and that would
Clinton's hard though, man. I mean, Clinton is like, you're talking about these
She's a
people
beast.
like they're
She's a beast.
like they're fighters, right? But if we were talking like they're UFC fighters, I mean, she's got like that 33-1 record. She has knocked out almost all of her opponents. She might not be the best fighter. She might not be the person that deserves to win, but she'll find a way, And she's a scary human being. Damn, the
no.
Clinton
She is
scary.
She is a political beast, and I have no doubt. I have little doubt that she'll get through, but I hope that she doesn't. And I feel like she might not. I feel like there are other candidates. It's not going to be Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders is an interesting dude. He's a senator from Vermont. Vermont is called the People's Republic of Vermont for a reason. It is a very weird place. I don't know if a lot of people probably haven't been there. I've been there many times. He's a socialist, straight up. Like, he doesn't ascribe to be a Democrat. He caucuses with the Democrats, but he is a socialist.
Interesting.
And he's running. So, like, maybe it's time to hear some different voices and try to get some different opinions. But what you're going to end up getting is Hillary Clinton, who's in the center, maybe slightly to the left, but not really. She's really not a Democrat. And you're going to get someone like Jeb Bush or fucking Marco Rubio or some boring ass, like, who cares? Like, people that don't say anything.
Yeah.
And
Or
don't
they
mean
say
anything.
they say that thing where they're just kind of talking around issues, and they're saying exactly what you want to hear, and you're like, you're not gonna fucking do that. You're not. That's what I liked about Romney, because Romney came at it when he was in especially that first debate where he was like, no, I'm a business person. You want to solve like the biggest problem which is our economy right now. You want to solve that issue? Here's how you do it. Same way I would solve an issue at my multi-billion-dollar corporation. Like, boom, here it is. And everyone was like, huh.
Yeah, I remember.
It's not like the grandstanding shit that most politicians bring to the table.
None of this.
None of this stuff. Well, he did. I think he did this.
No,
You know why they do that, right? Because it's rude to point at things.
Oh, yeah, that's
exactly why. Like, you don't do this because that's
Bill
an
Clinton's the one who really
aggressive
pioneered
gesture.
that.
Everyone does that. They do that, or they point with like
Oh,
this.
yeah.
Disneyland made that popular. I
Good
can't
for
back that up. But if you go to Disneyland, they actually
they
they
always
never
do.
point. They either go
Cast
full
members, man,
hands
they know what's up.
or this.
Mhm.
Because apparently I guess maybe it's in other countries. Like if you do this, it's like, hey, give me all your money. Maybe that's just in New York.
Yeah, welcome to the United States. Yeah, I don't know. I just want. I feel like this election has the ability to be transformative. I really do feel like this can be 1976. This can be.
I mean,
or 1980. This can be 1912. Like really big, really important, or 1932. Big important elections that are like that matter, that have really weird people. And for people that don't know, since they're laughing, 1912 was a three-way race between Teddy Roosevelt, Taft, and Woodrow Wilson. 1932 was between the incumbent Hoover, who was responsible for a lot of the Depression, versus FDR. 1980 was Reagan, who's been trying to run for president ever, destroying Jimmy Carter. Destroyed him in like one of the worst fucking I want people to go look at that electoral map. You'll never see a map like that again. It is red.
but people didn't
The
like
entire
Carter, right?
fucking map. Huh?
Carter was terrible, though, wasn't he?
Carter was awful.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm saying. And Frank, I'm not saying Obama's terrible, but Obama's a bad president. So you need this has the ability to be a transformative sort of election,
Yeah.
but people must engage.
Well, but
must
that's the thing. That's the
engage.
wild card right there. Is this is the height of social media too. Now, granted, when Obama ran, social media was in full steam as well, especially this last time when he was the incumbent. But like that'll be really telling to see how all these candidates use social media, like Twitter and Facebook. I mean, you guys know what social media is. I'm not going to define that for you. We're clearly amazing at it. Yeah, it'll be fascinating though. It'll be fascinating to see.
Hillary's Instagram.
I mean, they're going to do it, right? They have to. They're going to
The
have. They're all
fact
on
that
Twitter.
she's selling that poster with her on her cell phone with her sunglasses on, I'm like, she gets it.
She knows.
Yeah,
You
but
go, girl.
to me, it's like Hillary Clinton is fake. She doesn't answer questions from the media. She's like very scripted. She has way too much money to the point where
Listen,
she has just people surrounding her all the time. Like
She just kept her personal emails on her personal emails. No big deal.
yeah. Also, there's all the scandals, like the way
That's
the way they're gonna rip apart
amazing.
her using her personal email at State, and then Benghazi and all that kind of stuff is gonna be a disaster for her. But I think she probably gets through. But
She
if
knows it.
people
She's going to get through it.
But if people engage, then she doesn't. And this is the thing I've been trying to tell people. It's not because it's a Democrat that is like the presumptive nominee this time. It's just that why are you letting the media tell you who's going to win? You
easier.
choose. And remember that in 2008 they did the same thing, and people chose, and I feel like it was a rubber band effect against the media. The only reason Obama won is because they didn't want Clinton to win, because the media was saying like Clinton's going to win. So like, no, he's not. Like ultimately you don't choose that, we choose that. And I think that really helped Obama. Not to mention he was a very great speaker and all that kind of stuff, but he was supposed to lose. I don't think he was extraordinarily great at the debates and all that kind of stuff. People have to kind of go back and watch and remember these things, but I don't know. So I think that it's engage, and this election will be awesome. Like I'm so excited about this election.
Yeah.
But
I'm into it.
I'm gonna be so fucking bummed if it's Clinton and Bush. I'm gonna be
will
like,
be.
you have to
It
be
will
kidding me with this
be.
shit.
It
Now it's
will
both
be.
of them at the same time.
And then eventually one of them will have a child, Chelsea, who will be old enough to run, and she will run in 20 years. How old do you have to be the president?
35.
How Chelsea's, I think, my age. So I think she is maybe 35 now.
Yeah, she could be. Yeah.
So yeah,
She's gonna be the VP.
she'll be next. Nah, she won't be the VP, but she'll be 20 years from now. If
They need
she's
to
done
read
I
a
like how you
couple
took that
Senate
as if
runs.
that was a real statement for me.
That'd be
She'll be the
hilarious.
V- she'll be the
we're
VP,
keeping it in the
idiot.
family. No, they'll pick some old white guy probably to be VP.
Lieberman back at it.
To your guys' point, I mean, there was an awesome piece not too long ago that I was reading where it was like, Rand Paul is already falling into the trap of having to win the primary. Like he's already sounding like a Republican again, like saying things that he doesn't mean,
yeah.
and like, and
Just
I'm
like
this is a
just
bummer.
like what happened with Mitt.
Yeah, like where it's like they have to say things to win, and like that's the bummer, but that's the unholy alliance that is the Republican Party. I know because I'm part of it. It sucks. You have to the fucking evangelicals need to hear what they need to hear. The fiscal
Yep.
conservatives need to hear what they need to hear. The libertarians need to hear what they need to hear, and it's just like, and at the end you're just like, all right, I don't even know like what you mean anymore. But I still think that at least one side, will get the nominee you don't think they're gonna get.
Hope so.
I think that, unfortunately, if it's something like Clinton and random Republican guy or whatever that shouldn't win, Clinton's gonna win.
Clinton's gonna steamroll. Yeah.
So they got to be careful about that too. If Clinton's becoming presumptive, then we need someone like Mitt Romney to jump back in. And I think that's going to happen. Like Mitt Romney was gonna run, and then he wasn't gonna run, and then he just last week had a meeting with like a bunch of political strategists and donors in Utah. And I'm like, he's gonna run. Like I think he looks at the landscape and he's like, no.
I got to do this for my party and my country.
I'm just afraid.
Watch my documentary.
I'm just afraid he's going to become more like an Al Smith figure or something, who like a guy that just like runs over and over again and loses, and then that's like all he's going to be known for. It's not going to be known for like the things he did, the better things he did, the businessman he was. It's just like he ran for president 3 times, he lost.
Yeah.
But and he has the stink on him now, which is unfortunate.
The loser
when,
stink.
when he lost the primary, he didn't have the stink, but when you lose the general, you do have the stink, and it is very rare for
The
someone.
stink might be my favorite phrase.
You know, it's a real thing.
At the stink?
Yeah.
Oh, it's real.
Anyway, I hope people out there engage. I hope you guys engage too. And remember, like, it's so much deeper than Clinton and Bush. These fields are way deeper. This is the deepest field on both sides that I've seen in a long time, actually. And so, remember Howard Dean?
How can I forget?
I do remember Howard Dean.
Yeah. Oh my God. Well, if you guys are too young or don't remember, go watch Howard
That
Dean's.
wasn't that long ago.
Go watch. It was 2004. Go watch
Yeah.
Howard Dean's concession speech when he lost the I think it was the New Hampshire primary,
Ruined
which
the
was
man.
one of the great political meltdowns on national TV you would ever seen in your life. You saw a man who was maybe going to win the nominee just crumble and become a joke in 2 minutes. It is one of the great poli-sci videos you could possibly watch for the modern era. You guys should
It
go
was
check it out.
sad.
Then go look at Michael Dukakis in a tank.
Oh yeah, there you go.